What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Modern Craftsman podcast. We have a repeat, Mr. Aaron Witt.
Repeat guest, not repeat podcast.
Oh, yeah, repeat guest. Mr. Aaron Witt, Chief Dirt Officer, Chief Executive Officer of BuildWitt Media. I was going to stop there, but it's more than BuildWitt Media. When we chatted with him, what was it, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, it was November of 2020.
So he had 15 employees at that time, and his business was primarily focused on capturing content specific to the dirt world. And he quickly realized how that could be turned into a business to help solve one of the biggest crises. Is that a word?
Crises, maybe?
In the construction industry, which is education and lack of people, and obviously the replacement of everyone retiring. And fast forward to today, he's got over 75 employees. He's got a creative team. He's got the media team. He's launched a software company, and single-handedly, they have created over 1,500 training videos specific to educating people that want to get into a dirt world career.
It's really cool what he's doing. Obviously, interesting podcast, interesting listen, very interesting guy, very driven, motivated. It's crazy to think, and you'll hear this on the podcast, that this was not his goal when he started this. His entire business development has been very organic, and he hasn't really set these lofty goals. He sees an opportunity and he goes after it. And to see where he's gone from when he left school or left his job that he was working on a daily basis and decided to move home and start his own thing to where they are now, it's impressive. Especially with not having these goals in place and following a direct path to where he wanted to be. So it's a good listen. He's a great guest. You should definitely check out all of his platforms, especially his YouTube. It's legit.
As always, guys, this podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. Andersen is introducing their new 100 series flush fin windows this spring. The product allows for easy installation in stucco applications without the hassle of disturbing the stucco and saving time and money.
With Andersen, contractors in the Southwest now have replacement solutions for any project. Their Fibrex material is the ultimate solution in Southwest climates, 2 times stronger than vinyl with a finish 12 times thicker. Fibrex withstands 150-degree temperatures. Even in dark colors, these windows won't fade, flake, blister, or peel. And now with the new flush fin product, upgrading an old aluminum window has never been easier.
Every new product introduced by Andersen is developed with the innovation, quality, and craftsmanship that has defined their brand for nearly 120 years. Learn about the difference by visiting AndersenWindows.com. That's Andersen, ANDERSEN.
Have you ever installed a pivot door? Andersen is telling the story of one epic pivot door install on their ProViews blog. Get an overview of the basic steps plus a few tricks on how to locate the door pins and adjustable closer box. Find this story and other experiences from the job site on AndersenWindows.com.
And that's Andersen, ANDERSEN. This podcast is also brought to you by Buildertrend. Want to know the secret behind the success of thousands of remodelers around the world? Well, they tackle their projects with efficiency by using construction management software.
If you haven't heard of Buildertrend, it's the leading platform that helps remodelers like you with project planning, financial management, and communication.
With Buildertrend on your side, you can say goodbye to going over time and budget on your jobs. Miscommunication with subs and disorganized files, with that being a thing of the past. And best of all, your client's experience will greatly improve when they have more transparency into daily progress and budgets.
So start running your business instead of letting it run you.
And to learn more about how Buildertrend's project management software can help you work simpler, go to buildertrend.com/MC remodelers. How are you?
I'm tired.
What are you tired? You travel a lot, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel. And dude, building a business is no joke. It's so much fun to talk about.
Yeah.
and then it actually starts to happen,
It's fun to
and you
talk about, like, in the way of encouraging others.
yeah.
When the reality is like, man, I'm just encouraging them to be stressed like,
Well,
stressed out.
I try, like, I don't know if somebody's considering start a business. I try to be realistic about it. I'm like,
Mm,
be sure, like, be really sure you want to do that. And it's like, if I can talk them out of it, good. Yeah, that it wasn't for you. Because,
yeah.
dude, it's
Yeah, you
pretty
know, if you,
gnarly.
like, push them like, "Ah, you sure?" And they still do it, it's like, "Alright, you're cut out for this because
Yeah,
everyone is gonna be against you."
yeah. We're to the point where I think when I talked to you guys last time,
Dude,
what
I
was
don't
it,
even
like
know how it
2
was a
years
ye
ago?
yeah, it had to be at least 2 years ago.
Yeah, we probably had, I don't know, maybe 20 people, maybe probably 15
Mm.
at the company at that time. And now we're 75, and there's just so much chaos created by growth, and we're still paying the piper on all that right now, but we're almost to the other side of it.
Yeah,
It's
of
just
this other side.
of this other side, and then you
Right.
go to 150 or whatever it is, and then you start all over again, and it's just
What is the
perpetual chaos.
chaos right now? Like, what is the chaos?
Just making sure the right people are in the right places,
Mm.
and making sure the structure makes sense, and making sure the finances make sense. It's the systems make sense. It's like the business right now. It doesn't even resemble what it was when I last talked to you guys.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, like, 15 people, you guys were, if I could summarize, and correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, just capturing media in the dirt world
Yeah.
for, and then, and then trying to, sell that back to some of these companies.
Yeah, we were doing creative projects for
Mhm.
companies, and they would bring us in, and we'd do branding and websites and the full services
Sure.
marketing agency for the dirt world, as we call it, which is
Mhm.
mostly like civil contractors, mining companies. That's what we were doing, and then we had the bright idea one day to get into software, and brought in investment and investors and developers, and have created this training product. Kind of leveraged our unique reach in the industry with
Mhm.
social media into experts and job sites that we have, and our ability to create video content, and created a video based training platform for the industry.
That
That's
was
been on the market for about a year now.
that was an idea when you were 15 people? Like, the software specifically?
No, no, not at all.
So
No.
so w how did you get from 15 to the idea? Forget the 75, like, how did you get to the idea?
I think, like, business, at least for me, has just been an iterative process. You just take one step after another, and as you if you have courage to stay on the path, more and more of the picture reveals itself to you.
Mm,
And so the beginning was, I just want to tell stories, and then we grew into a marketing business. It's like, well, I guess here we are. And then we just asked ourselves, if we really want to impact the industry on such a broad level, we need something more scalable, and that led us to training and development, and to software. So first we did training and development. We called it BuildWitt Leaders. We had someone else's product that we used to host our videos, and it worked okay, but it was a little too aspirational for the industry, is how I explain it.
mhm,
Because contractors are just drowning right now, and they just want their problem solved. And that is, help me make my people more productive right now,
mm,
either my existing workforce, or I'm hiring these people that have no idea what they're doing on a job site. I need to teach them as fast as possible, and I don't have the time to do that.
yeah,
Um, and so then we went back to the drawing board and decided to build the platform ourselves, which is super super expensive, but now it's our platform, and we can mold it however we want to, which I'm super grateful for. And we went in the course of a year from 30 customers to 250 customers. So
that's crazy.
it's been
When
wacky.
when you say platform, like, just for my understanding, are you talking about, like, I'm using air quotes, "the website that all this stuff lives on"?
Yeah, it's an app.
Yeah,
And so it's
and
it's
that
just
and
a
that was
mobile.
built from scratch?
Yeah, we built it from scratch. Yeah. And there the like, when you're going to build a product, the first one of the first decisions you have to make is there something off the shelf you can leverage?
Mhm,
So you don't have to go build all that infrastructure yourself, and save you some time and money, and just
sure,
kind of put your value add on top of it. But um, you guys know this, the industry, the dirt world. the construction industry, it's very simple. It speaks a very specific language, and nothing off the shelf really fit it. And most of the stuff off the shelf was just too complicated. It's like,
Right. There's
cool.
too much to it.
Yeah, you have 100 different features. That's amazing, but we only need 2 of them.
Yeah.
And since we've been able to strip it all back, it's been very well received. We have over 500,000 completed lessons now on the platform.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's being used, which is
Wait,
cool.
500,000 meaning of users completed, or 500,000? You don't have 500,000 courses.
So there's been, you can assign courses as an employer or self-assign courses. So we've had 500,000 of those courses completed by our users. Yeah.
And how many courses exist?
So we've created about 1,500 training videos ourselves in the past year and a half. And then companies can add their own videos onto it as well. So then there's probably total like 8,000 videos on the platform.
Holy shit.
And now this year is, how do we scale that to, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, make it the biggest online learning platform in the industry and just dominate.
So how long are the videos you guys are creating?
Most of them are really short. So it's like, it's all micro learning. So for example, one of the most watched videos that we have is how to assemble a hard hat. And so it's a 3-minute video on how to assemble a hard hat. Because what happens is, you're 20 years old, 18 years old, you show up on a job site, they hand you the hard hat in the stupid plastic with the insert just sitting in the plastic shell.
And you sit there. It wrong.
Dude, it doesn't make any sense. They don't give you any instructions, and you're sitting there looking like a jackass trying to put the damn hard hat together. So it allows people to kind of keep their dignity a little bit. And yeah, I don't know how to assemble a hard hat, and I sure as hell don't want to go ask my new foreman, who I'm trying to impress and who's a big tough guy. So if I can go on here and learn how to do it, great. That's awesome.
So if Tyler makes a video and puts it on the platform, do I get access to that?
So right now, no.
Got it.
But we're working, it's happening as we speak, so that if Tyler made videos, he could say, you know what? I don't care who trains on this. I'm out to just help the industry.
Yeah.
Or it's a competitive advantage, because if my competitors, people are training on my stuff, and when they're looking for another job, they're going to be thinking about me. So then we'll vet that, add it to a community library.
Cool.
And that's how we scale. Because if it's us making all of the videos, there's just so many nuances to this world.
Dude, 1,500 in a year and a half. That's like 4 a day.
And we haven't even touched what the need really is. So that's what we're trying to, you guys know this too, in your world, it's a little different, but the knowledge of the industry is in people's heads. It's not anywhere, which is crazy. And we're trying to get it out of people's heads and put it in one place for the first time, which is a lot easier said than done.
Are all your videos right now all short form? And is that the intent, to keep them relatively shorter form?
For now, yeah. But it can be whatever you want it to be. So I'm
just curious if you guys had looked into the value of shorter form content versus longer form as far as usability.
We did, because it then creates a kind of more of a daily learning habit, rather than go in and watch these big courses at one time.
Yeah.
So it helps if you're able to just watch a 3-minute video in the morning and then go try it out like that, like an hour later on your machine or whatever it is. So we've focused specifically on short form now, but it can be audio lessons, it can be long form, it can be PDFs. We have the ability to go assign any kind of content now.
It's I do think something speaks for the short form though, and I think of companies I've worked for where it's more long form. It just feels more formal. It feels like you're trying to educate, and it feels like you're in school. And I think so many people who do what we do don't want to be in school, and they don't want to sit down for an hour, 2 hours, and take a lesson. It's just too much.
Yeah. Who wants to do that? I don't want to do that.
I don't. I never did.
No. And so if you can get in that habit of learning just something a little bit every single day, you're so much better off than trying to cram it all into one training every 6 months.
Yeah. So before we go too far, we had you on, I think it was 2.5 years ago. Can you just give us the cliff notes of who you are?
Yeah.
For listeners who weren't around 2.5, 3 years ago?
Yeah, we just got right into it.
Yeah.
Um, I my very short version of the story is I grew up not in the trades. My father was a tax lawyer. I grew up very white collar, Scottsdale, Arizona. Um, when it didn't work at all growing up, but then when I was in high school, I borrowed money from my friend's dad for my aquarium, and he said, "You can pay me back this summer by working in Montana." So I got my ass kicked for the first time in my life, but while I was in high school, that kind of sobered me up to the reality of the world. Started to recognize the opportunity I had. That was my parents weren't pushing me in any one direction, and I could go do whatever I wanted to in life. So I started to think, what do I find interesting? There was a construction project that popped up in my neighborhood when I was a senior in high school. I called them up. I asked to talk to the owner. I asked him for a job. He said no at first because I was 17. He couldn't legally hire me. Called him back when I was 18. He said, all right, you can start as a laborer. So I started as a laborer on a construction.
There he is.
Hey,
There we go. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
we lost you for a second.
You said you got
I
he couldn't hire you because he was 17.
couldn't hire me because I was 17. I called him back when I was 18. Right after I graduated high school, I started as a construction worker on a pipe crew just to be around construction equipment. I just wanted to be around heavy equipment all the time. I asked him what I should study in college. He said engineering. So I went to engineering school. I went to work for a different company every year of engineering school, graduated school working for 5 different heavy construction companies. I wanted to work in road building for a while, save up, buy a skid steer, become a contractor. But then I started putting my pictures on Instagram right as I graduated college in 2017. It really took off. A software company found me, construction software company, said, hey, we're trying to inspire the next generation with something called I Build America. We want you to come lead it because we like what you're doing on social media. So then quit my construction career just as it starts, go to work for a software company. And then 4 months into that, say, you know what, I can just go tell stories on my own. And so I quit my job. I moved back in with my parents. I buy a Sony camera and I start messaging construction companies online asking, hey, can I come out to your job sites and see what you do, take some pictures and share them on the internet? And 1, 2, 6, here we are.
So back then when you did that, and you said that this entire business has been an iterative process for you. So at that point, what was the business goal and the vision for you taking those photos?
There wasn't any big goal. It was just tell stories about the dirt world and hopefully make some money along the way.
Where did you see that going though? Or did you not have any consideration of that?
There was no consideration. It wasn't, there wasn't some grand vision. I had some savings. I had substantial savings because I just got lucky with the stock market when I was in college is how I put it. I don't do that anymore because I think my luck's just about gone.
Yeah.
But I had quite a bit of money that I could live on for a few years. And
What's
so
quite a bit of money?
Yeah, and you said a few years.
it was about $100,000.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
But you were living at home too, so that makes sense.
I was living at home.
Yeah.
I cut all my expenses and so the risk for me was super low. And
Yeah.
it was, let's just go out and tell stories and see what comes of it and try to make money along the way.
When you say try to make money, were you thinking that you would supplement by doing other things, or that you would hope that the company would be like, oh, those pictures are really cool, can I buy them?
It was always about making money with the storytelling.
Yeah.
And then I started to marry the storytelling with, oh, so these companies, they're struggling to attract people right now.
Right.
So I'm not just a photographer taking pictures of your job sites, making you look pretty. I'm a guy using photography as a tool to solve your hiring problem.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started connecting my product to their business problem, that's when it started to come together.
So you started creating brands for these companies within the industry, and that was attracting people, attracting help.
Yeah. The original thesis that still stands is, hey, if you want to attract people to work for your company, you got to talk about your company, because you guys, if you're going to look for a new company or go to work for a company, you're going to go Google them. And most contractors have a website out of like straight out of 2008, which is not even an exaggeration. That tells me nothing. And so it was, hey, if you want to hire people, if you want to inspire your current workforce and make sure they're feeling really proud about what they do, you got to tell that story, and we can do that for you, because that's all we do. So, and I didn't even intend to do that at a broad level when I began. It was more so I just did pictures, and then somebody asked me for a website. And when you're young and hungry, you just say yes. You don't think about it before you say yes. You just say, sure, I'll build you a website. And then after you walk out, you're like, what the fuck did I just do? I don't know how to make a website. And then out of that need to just make things happen, you just make things happen. So then we started doing websites, and then we started doing video, and then we started doing design. And then it's like, hey, your brand kind of sucks. Let's do that too. And we started just to take on more and more of defining construction companies, because they're really good at building stuff. They're just not good at articulating who they are and what they do. And so that's what we've been able to help them with.
Are you guys still doing that?
Yeah. We have probably 25 people in that creative services business that works with some of the biggest companies in the United States now and abroad.
So it's not like the new path that you're on, you haven't turned away from that and left that behind. That's still a prominent part of your business.
No, because the value is building this. I've always loved the concept of an ecosystem when it comes to business. And Apple nailed this. When you get an Apple product, you become part of the ecosystem. Like you get an iPhone, and now you have the blue bubbles, not the green. You don't want to be the green bubble guy. You want to be the blue bubble guy. And then now it starts talking to your computer, and now you have iCloud, and it just automatically goes to now you're in the ecosystem, and all of these pieces are making this whole thing much more valuable than any one of those pieces. And once you're in, it's solving so many of your problems and doing so many things for you. You don't want to leave. And I've always loved the concept of building an ecosystem, that a group of businesses that support one another. And so the creative business allows us really intimate access to the industry, It keeps our boots on the ground of the industry, so to speak, and helps inform the greater business. Then we have the software side of the business that allows to take what we've learned and the problems we've identified and scale our impact far beyond a services business is concerned. And then we have the media business, the storytelling business, and that is expanding our influence. The more people that know about what the heck we're doing, the better our business does collectively. So we now have these pieces of our business that support one another in what our mission is, making the dirt world a better place. I mean, Nick, you've done this too, in a sense, with your businesses. They all support one another in some way or another.
Yeah,
I do love that, and it's an interesting way to think about it. I also do fucking hate how all my shit from my phone comes up on my computer.
Yeah,
you can turn that off.
I know, but see,
but you
Aaron,
don't.
You think
don't.
that you do not understand technology, and I'm seriously like an 80-year-old person, where I'm like, why are my text messages coming up? I don't want my computer to be my phone. My phone is fine being my phone. But that aside, I do think that that's an interesting principle, to be able to cultivate that business within your own businesses and then keep feeding off of that.
Yeah, like I talk to construction software companies all the time, and a lot of their biggest challenge is just they're like, how do you get access to job sites? And I'm like, that's the easy part, man. I just call somebody. And if I need a $750,000 haul truck, I make a phone call and we get the haul truck. like because we have the relationships and the business we've created with creative business.
How often are you reaching out to shoot a construction site and being told no?
Very rarely nowadays, which is I'm trying not to take it for granted. Like this morning,
is it weird? It's like now everyone's like, yeah, it's like Aaron's coming. Let's go.
The access is crazy. Like, this morning I was on the phone with the cat dealer out of the Netherlands, and I'm going out there later this year. And it was 3 guys. One of them was the marketing manager, the boss, and 2 of them were kind of product support. And he didn't know who I was, but he's just like, I was explaining what I do, and he's like, well, do people in the Netherlands follow you? and I asked the other two guys, well, are you guys aware of what we do? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, great. So 66% of this call already knows who we are. there's my proof. And it's immediate validation. And they're
Yeah.
just like, great. Yeah. Well, let's look into what customers you want to go see and let's go make it happen. It's so crazy.
So your role obviously has changed. Like you started. I guess talk about that, because when you were 15 people, you were doing all this creative work, but you left that first meeting when you said you agreed to a website. My understanding, you didn't build that website. You
No.
went and found someone to do it, and then you grew to 15, and now there's 25 people running that. Your involvement in that or any part of the business is extremely high level. Is that right?
Yeah. My ignorance has been a double-edged sword, but I think it served me well because I don't know how to do, I'm not the best person at almost everything our business does.
Right. You're forced to delegate.
I've had to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still don't know how to code a website. I still don't know how to design. I'm terrible at editing video. I couldn't tell you how to code a software product. I couldn't. I'm really not the best at anything we do. So I've had to rely upon others, and we I'm really focused on trying to figure out how best to apply human beings. And I think everybody has a unique gift, and it doesn't necessarily line up with every business, but the more we can find out what our people's gifts really are and align them with that gift, the better off we are. And it starts with the top, the executive level. So as we've grown, I I built the business with Dan Briscoe, who was vice president of marketing of the department and the software company I worked for before I quit to do this. He left and then started to have, he was my first phone call when I told someone I'd build a website because I didn't know how to do that.
Mm.
And he just helped me and then came on full time, and we've really built this thing together. So he leads part of the business. And then we've added over the past year and a half, Jason and Randy, who we all have different superpowers,
Mm-hmm.
and we've all found our lanes, and we're trying to just focus on our lane. And so my lane in the business is expand influence.
Mm-hmm.
The more people that know about us, the better. The more people that know about the industry, the better. And I
And,
can do that because
and
I'm
that's
young.
phone calls, traveling, showing up on a job site.
That's mostly travel. That's the podcast. That's video. That's social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything. That's our influence, is how we call it. And then, um, still being chief executive officer, watching for anything catastrophic. Trying to maintain my situational awareness, try to understand what's going on
Mm-hmm.
from start to finish, and just watch out for anything like the icebergs,
Mm-hmm.
and then help guide the culture of the business is kind of where I've settled into. And then Dan has his area, Jason has his area, Randy has his area. And then we have leaders within each part of our business that we really let them lead. We rarely step in and make any decisions.
Are those guys partners or?
So Randy, he was a customer and then came in as an investor, and now he's our CFO.
So
And then
he has ownership or?
yeah. So when we decided to go into a software business, the only way to build a software business is to leverage outside capital. Or it's not the only way, but
You need a lot of capital.
you need a lot of capital, and I didn't have anything to borrow against me as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any assets, so banks are out.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go find it somewhere. And so we raised capital from contractors and cat dealers, basically our customers. And he came in on the first round. But then,
And we're talking like multiple millions for
yeah,
this.
once the second round's done, it'll be 20 million raised so far. And 20 million goes faster than you think it would.
Yeah. People listening to this be like, I could spread that out.
So
Yeah.
your perspective of being having a fair amount of savings at $100,000 has changed.
It's all relative. Yeah. We spend about $1 million a month now as a business, and and I think our first year of business we did $160,000, $170,000 total
In the year.
in the year.
Yeah.
But it's just relative. It's you don't really think about it. You just scale it as it goes.
Do you have people in place within the business that have more professional business experience to be overseeing things? Like, you're the CEO of this business because you're one of the original people who started this business, but your experience, like you said, is very iterative throughout this. So, like, who's checking you and double checking you to make sure that, yeah, things are going well, where it's not just one person looking over the health of this business, who's somewhat learning on the fly? And that's not an insult towards you,
Yeah.
but your experience in business has just been learning through your own successes and failures. So who else is on board that's keeping an eye on that and keeping tabs on those things?
That's where Dan, Randy, Jason, they come into play, kind of that executive level.
Uh-oh.
Why don't we make it like 1,000,001 a month and get some better internet? What happened?
He's frozen.
He's in a professional podcast studio.
He's frozen.
There we go. Wait. There he is.
I'm sorry. I don't know why this is happening.
It's okay. It's
It's
I was
it's
making fun of you for being in a professional podcast studio and told you that you should spend an extra $100,000 a month on better Wi-Fi. So
dude, we've spent a lot of money on Wi-Fi, and it still sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. But
Okay.
the checks and balances come from that executive leadership team. So it's that Dan, Randy, Jason, and then we have other leaders within that leadership team, and we've tried to create a high level of we're really, especially now, leaning into conflict. Like, we just had a tough conversation this morning, me, Dan, Randy, Jason, and we're all saying, I don't agree with that, or, well, but I see it this way. And it's an hour of conflict, but we're in a really healthy place to not lean in with our ego and get hurt about it. And really, you can tell it's cool to be on a team where you're all there to figure out what the best solution is. It doesn't
You're
matter
saying
who.
internal conflict, like amongst yourselves.
Yeah. It doesn't matter who's the most right or this or that. And my inexperience is a liability, but it's also an asset because I don't know the right way to do something, which isn't necessarily the right way for us to do something. And then experience is a liability and an asset. I've seen this before, but that sometimes could be an issue. Well, this is the way we've always done it. Okay, that's great, and it might have succeeded every time you've done it that way, but that still doesn't mean it's right here. So you have to have both. I think you have to have multiple perspectives, no matter how you do it. And I'm not saying, like, I don't want to act like we have this perfect formula figured out, because it's still so flawed. Like, we still have so many problems. It's not even funny.
Well, I also think that that's the struggle that you face as a growing business and growing at the scale that you are, similar to what Nick has faced over the past few years. As soon as you get a system in place or a process in place, now you're a different size than you were 2-3 months ago. So I would assume that part of that is trying to forecast where you're going to be and put processes and systems in place, accounting for future growth.
Yeah. And it's nice to have this team that I can lean on, because then I can go be out on the road and traveling. Like, I'm going to Australia next week, for example. I'll be in Australia for 3 weeks. I won't get many phone calls. I won't be all that stressed out about it.
Yeah.
I'm good to go because we've got other people leading the business. And so I can go focus on what I'm best at. And that's telling stories, experiencing the industry, learning about what the problems are out there so we can apply our business and creating that influence.
So what you just said, like, you're going to be gone for 3 weeks and not be super stressed out about that. When in your growth, or what was the thing that changed that allowed you to get to that point? Because and I'm asking that from the point of, there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are in business that struggle to take a day off, that freak out about, a missed day or going away on vacation, and all sizes of business too, where it's like, and thinking about how you have grown a business where, yeah, sure, it is not construction per se, but you are construction focused. And I think a lot of how you lead your company can be related to a construction company.
Yeah. There's I think there's common principles, and I see more construction companies than just about anybody at a very intimate level. I mean, I talk to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of construction business owners in the course of a year. Um, I've somewhat always had that because again, I'm inexperienced and I have to trust people. But I think trust is so underrated, and trust or mistrust is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't trust people, they're not going to act trusting because you're not going to act, even if you say you trust them, you're not going to act consistently with that. And then they're going to say, well, they don't trust me, so I don't need to be trustworthy back. But if you tell people, I just trust you, like 9 out of 10 times, humans, they get that trust and they're like, I don't want to screw this up. Maybe I've never been trusted before, but I'm not screwing this up. And then amazingly enough, they act trusting if you just give them your trust first. But you have to go first. You have to be vulnerable. And there is that potential to be screwed. But honestly, it's so slim if you're really trusting that.
Have you been screwed?
Yeah. Like who hasn't been screwed? Everybody gets screwed. But the temptation when you're screwed is to then add another layer of armor, or not be vulnerable anymore. I'm not gonna let them get the best of me again. But
So
often you just have to keep putting yourself out there. You have to keep being vulnerable. You have to say, yeah, this sucks, and you have to take your lessons from that. But then also resist the temptation of adding that additional armor, adding that additional clause in the contract or whatever it is. Because the more legal language you add, then the more legal language they're going to add, and it's just this vicious cycle. So I think trust is super, super underrated.
What do you feel? I know the last time that we spoke with you, a lot of the conversation was based around just the love for the industry that you have and why you got into this, and how you started that, how you started your business and where it's taken off now. And I understand that things have changed drastically in the past 3 years, and that you don't have massive goals or like a distinct specific goal for your company. But if you were to pause where you are right now, what is on the top of your list as far as things that you want to accomplish?
The mission we've always served is to make the dirt world a better place, and that means really helping the industry overcome the workforce challenge that all these companies are facing. There's this huge retirement issue that's only begun. Like we're seeing the beginning of this issue. Demand isn't going anywhere. It's only increasing, at least on the infrastructure front and on just most of the construction front in general. So there's this gap. You have declining supply, increasing demand, and this is a critical commodity for the industry, infrastructure, or for society, infrastructure. So we have to figure it out. And so our goal is to build a business to help construction companies, the dirt world, mining companies care for their people, invest in their people, grow their people, find more people, build that sense of pride, educate society on how important this industry is in their daily lives. So everything we do, no matter how different it might be, from a branding session for a contractor to training software to a jobs platform now to the summit we're having, the summit, the event we're having in October, it's all dedicated to growing the people of the dirt world, starting with the people in the industry and then going to outside of the industry to help solve the labor problem.
What do you feel has been the biggest contributing factor to the labor problem within your industry? We've spoken a lot about it with us, and we understand what's creating those issues internally with residential construction. Is it similar to what we are going through? What are you experiencing?
It's similar problems. A lot of it just comes down to society has progressed. And so if you look back at the top companies in the United States based on market value 100 years ago, they were all companies that made things. They were all industrial companies, steel and telephone and oil. And then now, the biggest companies are tech companies, Facebook, Google, Apple. So we've gone from this manual economy where we made things to then World War II came about, and we were able to access labor markets around the world for the first time with globalization, and we took the whole making things and put it elsewhere in the world, and then focused on that knowledge economy, which is more so thinking about things. Like me, I'm a knowledge worker. I don't actually take raw inputs and create things with them anymore. I think I create value that way. And as a result, our our economy, our country has boomed. We're all more comfortable than ever before. We have more choices in careers than ever before. You can't argue that life today is substantially better than it was even just 10 years ago. But at the same time, you have, as the society has progressed, you have people moving into cities, your birth rate's declining, you have less blue collar work, and it's all contributed to the problem we're facing right now. So it's the answer is it's not one thing. It's a long list of contributing factors, all created by how our economy, how our country has modernized and how the world is modernized. And instead of sitting around and saying, it's college, or it's just lazy people, or we're all screwed, instead of just kind of throwing our hands up in the air, it's like, that's great. We can sit here and complain all day long about how kids don't want to work, but infrastructure, the demand for infrastructure, the demand for housing, the demand for the built world still exists and still will exist long into the future. And maybe you're gone in 10 years and it's not your problem, but how successful your kid's going to be without, clean drinking water and a place to live and roads to drive on. So yeah, it's not your problem, but it kind of is your problem at the same time if you want to go leave your offspring, your kids, better off than you were.
So what are your clients having to do right now to offset or combat these struggles? Is it, hey, we're going to do smaller projects, we're going to have to pay people more? Like, what are their options right now?
the the go-to solution right now is pay people more. So that's why wages have gone through the roof over the past year or two. I
Do you
don't
say
think
that's a
it's.
short-term solution?
I
That we
think it's. I think it's part of the solution. I think the construction industry needs to be more profitable and pay people more. I think
yeah,
that's a huge component of it, but it's also it's not the solution. It's not the magic potion. And if you're
no.
competing just on wage, you're gonna get whooped by people that compete also on just the quality of their business and culture and how they treat people and how they care for people and how they grow people. Um, so I think right now the industry is everybody is feeling the pressure. Everybody's starting to sweat bullets a little bit, shaking their boots because they see demand's not going anywhere, backlog's not going anywhere. More
Mhm.
people are retiring. This problem's not going away. They're getting squeezed not just on labor, but materials and whatever else it is. But they're also, especially last year, making a ton of money. And
Yeah.
so there's not the real strong incentive to do something dramatic, but we work with a lot of the companies kind of on the front, the cutting edge, and those are the companies telling their story,
Mhm.
investing in their people, making them not just better workers, but better human beings overall, caring for them, appreciating them, saying, hey, what we've done for the past 40 years very successfully that's still making us a ton of money today isn't going to work for the next 40. So let's get ahead of this thing. But right now, the average is let's just keep raising wages.
It's something we talk about a lot. I mean, there's a couple points I want to mention. I think that obviously people like getting people into the industry is part of the problem. But Aaron, the point that you bring up that it's everything hits home because I think Tyler and I talk about it, on the podcast and offline a lot. Where you know this podcast started very similar to like kind of how you just started taking photos. It was just a thing we did. And only recently we decided that no, this we need to do something with this. We need to help the industry. We need to be a resource for the industry to really encourage people to not only get in the industry but run a good business. And approach it in a fair way and support good craft. And there's this argument that comes up all the time where it's like, no, we just need more people in the industry. We don't need technology to take over. It's like it's both.
Yeah.
There's no chance, zero chance that we can replace the people retiring. There's like, we can't. Like, they are going to retire at a way faster pace than we could even possibly encourage, educate, and get people into this industry. It just
Yeah.
will not happen. And and on the other side, it's like innovation won't be able to do everything that all of these guys are doing either. And it's this equal support. But I 100% agree about the wage in the sense that we need to pay our people more, but also that we need to control that. And one of the things that comes up in conversation a lot for me, especially with end users and clients, it starts with, like, for us, it's the homes. It's like, well, I want to build the 10,000 square foot home for $2.5 million. It's like, you can't do that. It's like, well, that guy, my buddy built a house for $250 a square foot. It's like, I'd love to talk to him because I wonder if he paid all his guys fairly. So what do you mean fairly? It's like, did he sell it? Did he turn around and be like, hey man, like, I know your paint number is 100 grand, but like, can you do it for 75? I'll give you the next job. And that guy goes and he's like, I gotta take this work. I'll take a haircut on it. He builds that house. He paints that house, and then he goes, hey, where's the next job? He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna build any more homes. It's like, what? It's like, so, and I see it all the time. It's like, when I talk to guys one-on-one, they're like, yeah, I'm squeezing my paint guy to get me a better number. I'm like, why are you squeezing him? Well, I got to be more competitive in my price. Okay, have a different conversation. Call your painter and be like, hey, you're 100 grand. Is there anything I can do to make your job easier and less costly? Is like, why are you asking him to squeeze his number? Maybe he turns around. My painter's done it. My painter turned around and said, hey, yeah, I can knock 15% off if you give me the whole house and there's no one else in the house. Because the last 137 homes I've painted have had countertop guys, carpenters in the other room finishing up, the floor guys trying to get the rest of the flooring installed, and I'm trying to paint around them. So yeah, my pricing hasn't changed just because of inflation. My pricing has changed because no one has their shit together and no one gets out of my way. So I'm not efficient. You want to save 15%? Give me the whole house by myself, and I'll save you the 15%. So what I say, great, I'll take the 15%. You show up, and if there's people on site, I'll give it to you back. And everyone's looking at it the other way. It's like, no, I just got to squeeze them. I just got to get a better price. I got to, and especially like the quote unquote luxury market. It's like these guys, you got to charge more money. I want to be building homes at $800 a square foot. It's like, oh, I sold that house $800 a square foot. That client, I'm going to make good money. And then they turn around. It's like, all right, who's the cheapest painter? It's like, you just sold a premium product. Why are you turning around? Like, the intent behind selling a premium product is so you can turn around and use premium material.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen. It's all like, I mean, I shouldn't say it doesn't happen, but like the vast majority of people in this industry are operating that way. And it's all it's doing is it's hurting the small guys, the trades that want to do a good job, and they can't because they're constantly squeezed.
What does the squeeze look like on your end, Aaron?
Time, right?
Yeah, I think in the civil space, and I say we're as in a lot of our customers are kind of the end. They're usually the subcontractor. Like they're kind of at the bottom, right? And so they're getting squeezed by the general contractor or by the project owner or whatever it is. I think there just needs to be like Nick, like how I think you need to be more disciplined as a business and work with the companies that are in the best interest of not just you but your people and your subcontractors. And when you have that discipline, I think it's scary at first to have that discipline and say, you know what, I'm not actually going to do this job. And this is a great job and I need the job, but I'm not going to do it because it just doesn't align with where I need to go as a business. And then when you have that sense of discipline, now you're attracting a better workforce that's more productive and more motivated. You have better subcontractors that can, like you said, hey, I can actually do this for that price, but this is how we need to do it, not just get squeezed and, well, you don't trust me, I don't trust you, you're screwing me, I'm going to screw you back. And now miraculously you're able to be more profitable with that approach, and then you can use that to then invest further in your business and pay your people more money and build a better business overall and take better care of your subcontractors. I think the market's going to adjust. The best contractors I see, they're out there, hey, we have been squeezed and there are realities of the industry, but they're also saying, you know what, we're not going to do this work anymore. We're not going to work for this customer anymore. We're not going to work this schedule anymore. We're just going to ask questions like, do we really need to work this many hours? Could we be more effective? Is there some kind of technology we can implement, some kind of equipment we can implement? And I think those that just have some courage and have some discipline are the ones that are going to win long term. But that was kind of a roundabout answer. If you really want what everybody is getting squeezed on, it's diesel, it's equipment, it's materials, it's labor costs. Everybody's getting squeezed from all fronts right now.
So they're just looking to drive those variables down in the cost of a project.
It's so, like, in construction, everybody's out to get one another. And if it were just more collaborative, I feel like even just from starting with contracts, everybody would be better off. Like I see contractors in Europe, and I've talked to contractors in North America about this. It's like they seem to get along a lot better, and they seem to kick ass and have these amazing machines.
Right?
And like Switzerland, for example. I mean, it's like they get it, and everybody over here is like, well, yeah, it's because their contracts are set up better. And it's not them versus the owner. It's them and the owner. Like they're working together. They're not trying to beat the shit out of each other like they are here. So I like I said, there's not.
But wouldn't you just pause in that moment and say, if you know why they're operating in a better manner, why wouldn't we adapt that? Right.
That's the question. We're going to have to. It's just a matter of time.
But it's so frustrating because I see, in your industry and ours, is that now it's cost, but it's also speed, and it's speed and the reason we're required to work so hard and so fast and get things done faster is because we're losing the horsepower to get it done, and that's because we're losing people, but we're also losing we're replacing them with people that don't operate efficiently for a number of reasons, which is exactly why you have this your training program and your software. But there's a number of reasons as to why people don't work efficiently, but it's becoming more commonplace to work just like laxatively.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying people are lazy, but it's just, generally speaking, the mentality of going to work and busting your ass all day is becoming, this thing that people are afraid to encourage.
Mm-hmm.
And
but that's
good.
Like, but if you, you're afraid to encourage it. But if you encourage it and say, hey, if we bust our ass for 40 hours this week and get the job done, we don't have to work Saturday. And it's like, all of a sudden, everybody's a lot more motivated than, because I don't want to work Saturday. And I'm generalizing.
Sure.
But I think if we ask more questions, why does it have to be this way? How can we make our people more effective? What are they missing to become more effective? Okay, great. If I don't have, if my reality is I need 20 people, but I only have the ability to get 15, how can I make those 15 people as effective as possible, rather than just sitting here and saying, okay, great, we're still going to have to work the same amount of hours that if we had 20 people, but the 15 people are going to have to work those hours. Like, just even just asking the questions, could we do this better? Or like what you've learned with Jocko, for example, maybe I can involve our people in coming up with the plan. Hey, we got to get this done this week, guys. How do we do it? How can we do it more effectively than we've done in the past? And maybe they don't have the answer, but they're the ones that do it every day. So maybe they do have the answer, and maybe we can all work together on how we can figure this out more effectively. But the efficiency thing is critical.
Yeah, and I think that even your example there does paint a clearer picture for the listener who's trying to figure out within your industry how to better um, the employee experience and employee retention and workforce development. And I guess to dig a little deeper into that, my question would be, right now, what is the life cycle of a typical person who's getting into the dirt world look like? right? Like they're gonna get done high school, they're gonna go for X amount of training, they're gonna make a certain amount and then retire after how many years making how much money. And what do you feel like that should be? Where would you like to see that for the future in order to grow your industry?
I think it's less about money. The money across the board is pretty good. There are some markets, like a lot of the South, that's really low, like a Florida, like a Georgia, like a Texas. But most of the industry, you can make a lot of money. I think what's more important, what's needed more so in construction in general, is a little bit of flexibility, because this next generation doesn't want to work 7 days a week, doesn't want to work 6 days a week, doesn't want to just sell their lives for money like previous generations have. They have more options than ever before.
Mm.
And so if it's sell my life for the same amount of money working hard, or go do it in an Amazon warehouse with air conditioning, I'm going to do that all day long. And it's like, I don't blame those people for making that decision. So I think flexibility is huge, and just a sense of caring is huge. I think it's this tough guy world that is the construction industry. And because I came up with the school of hard knocks, and because I was treated like a pile of shit, you need to be treated like a pile of shit too. You need to come up how I came up. You need to do your time. And that's just not how this works. So I think money's important. I think benefits are important. I think you need to meet people's basic needs. But I don't think that's where the biggest gain is for the construction industry. I think the biggest gain is, how do I care for people more? How do I help them grow more effectively? And that's not just go up the ladder. How can I help them if they want to get a house? How can I help them get a house? How can I teach them about finances, teach them about physical health, mental health, whatever it is? How can I make them feel like they're part of a team and they're in this together? How can I remind them of the importance that they serve? This isn't just this empty house. A family's going to live here. Like, how important was your house growing up? Yeah, it was so impactful on your life. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're offering the kids that are going to live here. That amazing opportunity that you had, that amazing impression that you had. Um, I think there's a lot more that we can offer people that isn't just the money, that makes a huge impact at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Something that I noted while you were speaking earlier, where I'm trying to compare what you do to what we do. Obviously, that's not fair, but I'm looking at similarities and differences. And when you were saying, um, there's other ways of doing this aside from paying people more. Like, one of the biggest struggles that we have is the ability to pay people more, because there's a cap on what customers are willing to pay us, and it's so price driven, and there's no standard set within our industry, like a lot of the case in public work, work that's put out to bid in your industry. So what we do have going for us is, within our smaller companies, generally you can get the recognition that somebody in your world may not get, right? Or you can work for a homeowner that comes in and says, "We absolutely love what you did." And that does, a lot of times, when you underbid a job, you're not making money, that does offset that, and it makes it better. It's not a replacement for that, but you do have the opportunity to experience the end user. And with what you're doing, it's like, what are these guys and girls who are in a loader all day, like, who's recognizing their efforts? There's nobody, when they're getting done the road work or building the bridge, those people aren't coming up to them being like, "Hey, this is amazing to be able to drive over this bridge." It's like, no, you're getting out of your loader and people are pissed off because you created traffic. So
Sure.
although they are getting paid possibly more than what people are doing in our world, there probably is not the recognition that we get, and the end user experience where people are appreciating what you're doing on a daily basis.
And and even if that's not the case, I mean, you as the employer, a little bit of recognition goes so far. And I try to be good at this, but I you know I'm a hard charger, and I'm just like, great, you did your job. Like, that's what
Right.
we're here to do, right? But that it's not the best mentality for other people. It might work for you, but throwing people a bone every once in a while goes so far. Hey, great job. I really appreciated you doing that the other day. Like, using positive reinforcement. Hey, I saw you swept up the other day. That site, I went there Saturday. It looked clean, man. And I really appreciate that. And our homeowner, that homeowner really appreciates it too. So thank you. And you just look in the eye, you look them in the eyes and say, thank you. There's so much there that is worth a lot more than money. And even, to your point about finances, if you can't pay people more, maybe explain, hey, here's how the business works. Here's what we bid this job for. Here's how the money flows through this job. Here's why we can't. And we've tried to be very transparent financially within our business because it's tight right now. We're running on investment. We're raising this other round. We've gotten the goodwill by explaining, here are all the facts. Here's why we're making these decisions. Here's why we can't pay you more right now. And people are understanding. If you're not screwing them and if you're genuine and honest, 9 out of 10 times they're going to be like, yeah, I actually understand that. And I've never worked at a place that's actually told me the truth. And I appreciate that. It buys so much goodwill.
What do you think is the biggest attraction for people to get into the industry right now? Like into the site work, civil world, like who's getting done school and getting into that field?
I think the single greatest opportunity in society over the next few decades is in the trades, because the trades, they're not going anywhere, regardless of economy, regardless of what needs to be done. They're not going anywhere long term. And this huge retirement issue, the 40 to 50% leaving, that's a young person's opportunity, because that means the world's your oyster. If you're willing to put your head down and get after it, you can go anywhere in this world. And so I think I'm really optimistic about the trades because it offers something that most other careers don't. The camaraderie is amazing. It's not super formal. You're working in different places, so there's variety. You're often working outside, which I think is fantastic. You can see even if you're running a loader or making cabinets, whatever it is, you can see, I worked hard today and that's what I created. You're serving a bigger purpose than just making money, than just yourself, than just pointlessly packing box after box after box. It's that kitchen. I did that. And that's such a gratifying feeling. The sense of just working hard, I think, is desired. I really do think that's a very human thing. We want to work hard. We want to go create the things we're most proud of or the things we've worked hardest on. But we've lost sight of that a little bit as a society. And I think our industry, just the trades in general, offers that to people if we're able to be honest about it and say, yeah, this is not a glamorous world. You're not going to be clean every day. It's going to suck sometimes. Yeah, it snows and we're outside or it's hot. But that's also what makes it great. It's like people don't sign up for the Marines thinking it's going to be a great time. They know it's the Marines, and that's why they sign up for the Marines. I want to be part of something bigger than me. I want to be part of the toughest people out there. And I think if we focus on that messaging, like, hey, this isn't for everybody, but those it's for, there's more opportunity here than anywhere else. It's super compelling.
Yeah, I feel like I get that. I understand that. I don't know how many of the people who are in the trades got into the trades for those reasons, though. And maybe creating that narrative is more important. But for me, I personally feel that most people to get into our trade, or probably even your trade, it's the path of least resistance right now, right? Where it's like, I don't have to go to college. They're looking for help. I can get in. And I don't know. I don't know how we can change that, and specifically what you guys are doing with your whole program and workforce development, what you are hoping to do to change that. Because right now, for me, that seems the way as I've always known it. It's just like, hey, you can go do this.
I think like the lowest hanging fruit on changing it is talking about it. If everybody in the industry is talking about what they do and, hey, I'm really proud of these cabinets and here's how I did it, like you both are doing and I'm doing, the more people that just get the word out about what the heck it is that this industry does, the more people, especially on the internet where kids are, the next generation is, the more people are at least just going to be aware of it. Because I think a lot of it is still just an awareness issue. Unless unless you're in a place where the trades are common, like, or like a farming town, or your parents are in the trades, you're probably not aware of the trades right now growing up in
Mm.
school or wherever you're at. I think step one is what I've always explained to people: go where the kids are and just tell stories, show them what we do. And it's cool. It's like, I don't have to make heavy equipment look cool. It's
Yeah.
just cool. And so if we have everybody in the industry telling those stories and creating that sense of awareness, that's at least the first step. Again,
Yeah.
it's not the magic potion, but I think everybody listening to this has a role to play. And that is just tell the story about what you do day to day. Because even if that helps one kid become aware of this industry when they wouldn't have otherwise, and they get into this industry, that's huge. That's a huge impact that you've created.
I mean, it's so true. It's, I think for myself, I oftentimes forget that just the fact that we share what we do is impactful. And, and oftentimes I'm like, how do I make an impact? Like, what can I do? What can I change? What can I build? And it's, the reality is it's like, no, we're, continue to share. And the podcast, it's like it gravitated, or it grew into the podcast. And now the podcast is a brand, and that brand is evolving into, a community for people that want to be in the, you know, a craftsman, you know, and the the kids thing is interesting, and I'm curious at what your thought is. Like, you talk about where the kids are, and obviously you're talking about social media, and w- I just chatted about social media and how it relates to, people were talking about TikToks for example. They're like, why would you be on TikTok? It's like, well, for me, for an end user, I'm watching 15-year-olds blow up and then turn into millionaires. And it's like, ultimately, we have this whole nother generation of very wealthy people coming out. So from a sales perspective, they don't know a builder, and they
Mm,
go and make $1 million. I want to be the builder that's always in their mind, because
nice.
that's why I want to be on TikTok, is I want to be relevant. But from the industry perspective, it's, yes, it's the awareness, yes, it's creating content, so for the greater good of the industry. But I'm curious at your thoughts, like, even before the social media age, like, is there, you said something earlier about, like, you don't have to make heavy equipment look cool. I've sent you plenty of photos of my kids literally glued to the screen watching your videos.
Hmm.
We watched an excavator fill 14 dump trucks for like 2 hours, and they just stood there and watched it. And I said to my wife, and I was like, this is cool. Like, the fact that they're enamored by it, this is going to create awareness, for them to say, like, oh, I want to do that.
Hmm.
But at some point that ends, Nick, right?
Well,
Like,
that's what I was getting at, is like, eventually they get to an age where we remove that from.
but why?
I
Like,
I
if
don't
it's
know.
not money, if it's not social status, then what is it? Because you can make a decent living doing that.
You
It's
can make more than a decent living doing that. And I guess that's my question to Aaron. Like, you think about the, we'll say, like, under 5-year-olds, they're gonna watch the video, but between 5 and social media, like, how do we tap that?
I think it's yeah, you need to get younger people excited, but I think you need to tell your story about how you even got into the industry, and what that looks like, and talk about the people, and make it more tangible. Like, getting people excited is one thing, but I think even people telling their story about, here's how I got into the industry. Like, I've had this newsletter series recently about just how my life, and I sit down and write it every week. And I've had a lot of young kids say, hey, this is so helpful to just have an idea about how someone else got into this industry, like the mechanics
Cool.
of who you talk to and how you started and what the expectations were, and even just making it more tangible from like a, here's what the job looks like, here's how I started, here's why I enjoy it. So sharing one, but more so, I think just making it tangible from a workforce standpoint. And again, I think social media is the best way to do that. Or if nothing else, how can I, as a tradesman go to a local school? Is there an opportunity for me to go talk to a school and bring in some of my tools and do a demonstration for them and explain what their career could look like one day? I don't know what it is. Again, I don't have any bright ideas in that regard, but even like a lot of the stuff too, I see a lot of people, they make the mistake of thinking, well, it's obvious to me, or it's so normal to me that it's not that cool. But it's like, Nick, I saw
Yeah.
you explaining some fucking vent the other day, and I don't know what it was, but you were explaining it. I sat there and watched the whole video. I'm like, that's so interesting. I don't care. I don't care
Right.
about vents. I don't care about residential construction. But it's just like, it drew me right in because you're showing me some detail that
Something
to
you don't
you,
know.
I have no idea. But to you,
Yeah.
it's like, this is, why am I even talking about
I've
this?
used that example so many times, and it's like baking and cooking. Like, I don't know how to cook. And
Yeah.
years ago, I followed this girl that opened a cookie shop, and she was like showing you how to make cookies. I'm probably never gonna make cookies, but it
Yeah.
was just something I didn't understand. So it was interesting enough for me to sit there and watch it. To her, she probably makes 5,000 cookies a day. It's not interesting, and I fully agree. It's like, you know, we don't give we oftentimes don't give ourselves enough credit about just how cool what we do is, and how the majority of the population would find a lot of value in that. And that value can be tangible or educational, or it could simply just be entertainment.
Yeah. I I'll take this a step further too, because I see there's a lot of young people that write to me now and say, I desperately want to get into the industry. I just don't know how to get in, because
Mhm.
everybody wants experienced individuals. And I think too, if there's an opportunity for any business owner in the trades right now to offer younger people the opportunity to get a job in the trades with no experience, it's hugely, hugely beneficial to that young individual, to your
Yep.
business as a whole. But there's just this, because I'm so overworked right now, I don't have the time to train somebody.
I was
I
just
just
gonna
need
say,
someone experienced.
yeah,
And but then everybody knows they're lying to themselves, because those experienced people, who's experienced looking for work right now? If they're looking for work, they're probably not the best. And
right.
then everybody also says, I'd rather just train somebody and teach them how I want it done than unteach how they've learned it and all their
Mhm.
other bad habits. It's like, great. Well, at some point, you're going to have to make that investment. You're going to have to put your money where your mouth is and offer younger people the opportunity to get into this world.
Mhm.
All these construction companies, I go to their website, I put myself in the shoes of an 18-year-old. I don't know how to apply. I just see experience or whatever. Like, there's no pathway for me. So what do I do? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, sure, like some places have unions, but the apprenticeship programs, they're hard to get into. They're not
Mhm.
keeping up with demand.
It's funny. We talked. Tyler and I talked to a bunch of high school kids, and a bunch of them asked that question. They're like, I don't even know how to get a job. It's like everything I look on their website, or I look online when they're hiring, and it says must have experience.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you recommend I do? And I think either Tyler or I said, call them anyway. Say, hey,
Mhm.
I know you're looking for someone with experience, and I don't have that, but where I lack experience, I'll make up for work ethic.
Yeah.
And
How
they were like, but what if they say no? I'm like, then move on to the next one.
uh
You guys, like, by putting that out there that you must have experience, it's like you are you are limiting the people that reach out to you, and you are creating this barrier of uncomfortableness.
Do you think the way that you're putting out content and your general appearance, Aaron, plays a a big part in accepting people into the industry? And um I guess what I'm trying to get at is the way that you put out content, the way that you portray yourself, you're very approachable. Does that play a big part in this? Because I feel like so many of these young kids, like you're saying, Nick, if we were to stand up in front of that audience and we were dirty and filthy and had like beards, tattoos, but just looked like construction workers that are like scary construction workers, there's not as much of an approachability there when you're young and you're not sure of yourself and you're not confident of yourself, and now you're looking to get into an industry that's just like brute and tough. like I would say that, Aaron, you probably get a ton more kids reaching out to you because the way that you create content and your appearance is very approachable. And how much weight do we put on that for our industry? Because if I have somebody who wants to get into residential and they go to a union, and the union's just essentially bullying them, and it's just scary for them, how are we going to attract kids? Where then you have somebody who just doesn't treat people that way, or doesn't create that type of an atmosphere, where now you're going to get younger kids, you're going to get women, it's just more approachable.
I think that's a big piece of it. I think there's like employers in general, it's not just the trades, employers in general are very entitled, I think. And that's because they've been able to be entitled over the past 50 years. If I give you a paycheck, then I deserve XYZ. I am fulfilling my end of the bargain here by giving you a paycheck. Now people can get a paycheck in a lot of different places, a lot of different options right now. And that's not going away. It's flipped. And so if I have a workforce problem as an employer, that's my problem to figure out. I can sit here and complain all day long, but that's my problem to figure out. So I can sit here and say, I wish these kids would just walk into my office, but they've never learned how to walk into somebody's office. They've been on the internet their whole lives. So how can you meet them where they are? How can you be more approachable? And that's not shave your beard off maybe, or get rid of your tattoos, but what can you do to lower that barrier to entry, to make it more comfortable? And I get maybe you were getting wrenches thrown at you when you were that young person, but that's just not how the world works anymore. You have to set your ego aside, set your experience aside, and say, how can I be a little bit more approachable? Because those that are approachable, those that are caring, those that are saying, hey, you don't have to have experience, we will invest in you. Hey, we offer flexible hours. So if you're a mom, we can figure that out. Or you recently had a kid. Like we did a video with a cat dealer tech the other day at Wheeler Machinery. And I texted him, I'm like, hey, so you're going to be at job site at 7 or 6:30? Let us know where we need to meet you. He's like, I'll just meet me at my house. I'm actually on dad duty until 8 o'clock. And we get to his house and he has a car seat in his service truck. He's like, yeah, I had the smaller service truck, but it didn't feed a car seat. And I talked to them about that, and they gave me this bigger service truck, and they allow me to be flexible with my hours. That's very approachable.
Yeah.
It's not always just that appearance. I think there's a lot of things an employer can do to be more approachable. To, hey, we made a mistake, let's put it on social media, and that's scary, but that says we're vulnerable as an organization, and we're making mistakes is okay here. And to me, as a potential employee, that's attractive. I think there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah. Can we talk about your app specifically? Like dig into, so is that primarily for employers to be using as a tool?
For right now, yes.
Okay.
We have like a future roadmap. And when I say we don't have a plan, we have a plan future state, and that's because we have smarter people on board now. It's not perfect, but we know where we're going somewhat. But right now, we if we're going to go invest in this product, we need to get income in. And so making something for companies, B2B, business to business, that companies would pay for was the best first way to do things before we go to the individual level.
And so what do you see that transition looking like? And where is the end there? Is this something that in a perfect world, that you would be able to have somebody who's interested in getting into the industry to be able to get on the app and start digging into and educating themselves about the dirt world?
There's two different routes. There's the BuildWitt training route, and that really is going to become a product for companies to invest in their people, care for their people, everything people related. There's no softwares or anything focused specifically on people because it's squishy and it's hard, and it's easier to do things that are more measurable, like telematics, like materials, like invoicing, that kind of stuff. People just, you can't really get your hands around it. So we're trying to make a really nice product to help companies invest in their people. And then we're in the works right now of creating this digital community, this platform that will be kind of the entry point into the industry to eliminate that friction of people not knowing where to go and say, you know what, just go, for example, to dirtworld.com, and you can start learning about the industry. You can read stories about how other people got into the industry. There's free training for you. Oh, by the way, here's companies willing to hire you without any kind of experience. And the goal is our unique advantage over anybody else is we're just like this middle ground. We're not a contractor. We don't get bid against people. We're not a supplier. We don't have all these other competitors. And what are you trying to do here? We're not an association. We can move a lot faster. We're a startup. So the goal is to create, exactly as you said, a pathway for people into the industry, to not just create a jobs platform that trades people back and forth, but actually adds people to this world as well.
So your vision for this, would you say is somewhat of the latter thing that you described, and in order to fulfill that vision, you had to go the business to business route to be able to support all of that?
Yeah, because what software is really cool, because it's something called annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. And when you have recurring revenue, like you as a contractor, your revenue isn't recurring. It's you need to go bid jobs, you go build the jobs, bid jobs, build the jobs. And if you leave, your business isn't all that valuable, or you stop bidding, it's not all that valuable. So if you go sold your business, just speaking on average here, you're likely selling for the workforce, for the backlog, for any assets, but that's kind of the value of the business. It's like maybe one time's revenue.
Yeah.
Whereas software, every year, in theory, with that ecosystem, people don't leave or add on. So you're turning over that revenue and building on top of already existing revenue that continues to roll over annually, which makes the business a lot more valuable. So we can, by selling companies on training, addressing that low hanging fruit with a training product, we're getting companies into our ecosystem. They're paying every year. And then our enterprise value grows from there. We can raise additional capital to then go build a community, to go build additional products, to go do additional things, because we have that much greater enterprise value driven by the recurring revenue.
So is that recurring revenue the big difference between what you're doing now to get to that end goal and versus what you were doing before and the YouTube channel and just creating the content on your own dime, or by self-raising that capital?
We're still creating a lot of that content. It just, at the greater enterprise value, it allows us to in theory in the future raise a lot more money, and it just gives us a lot more freedom. Because like, as a services business, again, we're worth one time's revenue. As a software business, you're starting to get to 10, 20 times plus revenue.
Yeah.
In
Just gives you more
valuation.
opportunity. I mean, I'm just thinking of this as far as Nick and myself and goals that we've discussed, and everything that we've done so far, everything that Nick's done within his business obviously is all self-funded. You're limited as far as finances, you're limited resources, time, all of those things. And it's like, how do you get to your goal when you have all of these limitations without putting something in place like you're doing now? But obviously that complicates things a lot. Like, you got on the podcast and you just exhale a sigh where it's like, holy shit. So you went from somebody who liked having work boots and seeing site equipment to now running a business that's probably so far from what you thought you'd be doing in the first place. And it's like, 10 years go by and you look back and you're like, how the hell did I get from point A to point B? And I'm not even where I wanted to be in the first place. And that's my fear with taking all of those steps, or putting those systems in place, as far as growth.
Well, I think people have to think more carefully about growth before they go grow too. I think there's a lot of people that just grow for the sake of growing because it's fun to talk about. How are you doing in business? Oh man, we're growing. Wow, that must be amazing. It's always looked as this positive thing, but it destroys a lot of things too. There's the dark side to it. There's a cost to growing. we're growing, and I'm more than comfortable with how our business has morphed and changed and where it's going and taking bigger and bigger risk, because we seriously want to go impact the entirety of the industry. And the only way to do that is through this large business, through the setup we're creating. And I'm willing to give up a lot for it. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I'm like, this is the only game I play, and I am more than comfortable to just give everything else up, go all in on this to make this a reality. But there's a lot of people that, hey, like I want more time with my kids. Then build a business that accommodates that. You don't have to go build this monster of an organization to accomplish what you want. Like, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want your business to accomplish? And then build the business to do that. There's so many contractors I've talked to that have grown, hired a bunch of people, and then recognized, holy shit, I don't want a bunch of people. I just want to go build cabinets. I just want to go run an excavator. Fantastic. Then either you have two options. Either just do that and make it yourself, or go build the system that does everything for you, but you have to trust that system so that you can then go focus on doing whatever you do. There's a company that comes to mind. The owner, it's a massive company. They have 300 plus people. The owner runs a machine every day. Has nothing to do with the operating of the business. No desire to operate the business. He's almost 80 years old. He runs a scraper. He just wants to run a scraper. He just wants to move dirt. But he's smart enough to sit there and identify that's all he wants to do. And he's brought people in to do all of the other stuff. He's trusted them to do all the other stuff, and he stays the hell out of it.
That's super. And that's not common though. No. And a lot of people feel as though if I'm the owner, I have to run the show. And it's just not the case. It's like, and we've talked about that, but a lot of people have a hard time letting go. Like, well, then why wouldn't I just go work for someone?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's easier said than it's emotionally hard. Like, I talk about this again, like it's easy, but there'll be some days where I don't get any phone calls and I'm just like, fuck, like, I guess no one needs me. And you get all bummed out about it. And then
I just felt bummed out for you.
Dude, like, your human nature kicks in. You're just like, oh no, there should be people that are calling, or I should be calling people, whatever. And you're like, no. This is how it's supposed to be. Like, I don't know if Nick, when you were with Jocko, he would talk about, then this really reframed it for me. The perfect mission, just being him sitting in the Humvee, him getting on the radio saying, execute, execute, execute. And then just listening to the radio in the Humvee while the guys go do the work. He's not supposed to go kick indoors. He's not supposed to go clear rooms. He's not supposed to be out there. He's supposed to be leading. And a lot of times that's sitting back and observing, so that if the team that's sucked in on the action is walking into a trap, is walking into something catastrophic, you can say, hey, stop. But other than that, he said perfect mission. He wasn't doing anything. And this is like the guy. So if it's like, this is the guy, shit, like that, a lot of leadership that we're taught is completely wrong.
How much intent have you put on being able to remain boots on the ground while your business, with respect to what we're talking about? You start out by taking photographs of construction sites. You're this self-proclaimed like dirt fiend. How much intent has been put on you being able to remain able to do what you've always done while building this business, right? Like, you still get to travel and meet with the companies and see the equipment. Like, was that always the goal, or is that just like, hey, I'm the only one who fits this bill?
I think it's always been the goal to keep that, because that's what I love to do. Everybody, like, it's taxing to be flying around the world and going to these weird places and switching time zones every other day. But I just love it. I absolutely love it. And I want to do more and more and more and more of it. And so I've prioritized it. And that means I haven't been able to do other things. But as the business grows and changes, there's different things you need to do to, again, going to a Jocko term, like maintain your situational awareness. Like, I call in people randomly. There's updates that I'll read. There's different things I do to just maintain my situational awareness of the business. And sometimes I'm better at it than other times. Like right now, I think I'm pretty good, but I'm going to leave for 3-4 weeks. I'm probably going to be out of the loop, and I'm going to be catching up when I come back. But then I can't get too involved, because then it'll come off like I'm not trusting people, or I'm looking over their shoulder, or whatever it is. It's just this weird balance of trying to maintain your awareness while doing what you do. I don't know. I don't have the formula figured out.
Yeah, just it's something to take a look at from the listener's point of view, or to take heed to, that when growing a business, it is important, especially within the construction world, to prioritize what makes you happy and doing what you want to do. Because I don't know specifically with your world, but with Nick and my world, typically as you grow your business, you pull further away from why you started that business in the first place. And like you said, 10 years later, you're doing something that you didn't want to do. You're not swinging the hammer anymore. You're not working the scraper anymore. And I think that if people approach business with, hey, I want to grow, but this is what makes me happy within the business, that you don't necessarily have to completely remove yourself from that aspect of the business that makes you happy.
I think Aaron's a great example of it, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's continued to do the same thing, more or less, and allowed everyone else around him to fill in. The trust thing is your comment about trust is really interesting, and it's kind of hitting me hard, where I battle with the micromanaging, and I continue to do less and less of it. And I went as far as 2 weeks ago, I sent out a company email to everyone saying, hey guys, like, I am gonna purposely remove myself from a lot of the on-site coordination. I might sit in a meeting and listen, but I'm no longer going to provide direction. I'm not going to be, if I see an issue, I'm not going to just go right to you and say, hey, this needs to be fixed, because I've hired Julian, who's my operations manager. That's his job. And all I'm doing is disrespecting him by going around him and then directing you guys accordingly. And it's not because I want to play the game of telephone. It's because I want Julian to be trained to be my quote unquote clone, right? In terms of what I'm aware of. And I can train him to do that. So, 6 months time, I show up on the job site. There is nothing that I'm seeing. I don't notice anything because Julian's now got it. He's understood. And then now I fully trust him.
Yeah.
And then I'm not micromanaging him, and it's he becomes, he fulfills that leadership role.
And he's growing, and he's being more fulfilled as an individual.
Right.
You win, he wins, the customer wins, everybody wins.
All right, Aaron, I have something that's a little off topic.
Please. Yeah.
Going through
Bananas.
some right.
Conspiracy theories.
So, last year you completed a 100-mile race after a failed first attempt.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that mentally you broke before physically.
Yeah.
And on the first time, and that you had to change, I would assume, mental preparations in order to be successful the second time. What do you feel you changed mentally that made the difference between your first attempt and being able to complete the second attempt?
I think on the second attempt, I was more prepared. I was more calm. I was just more measured overall. It was so weird. That I was really anxious before the first one, because I'd never done anything like that before, and I was just scared. The second one, you still have some nerves before, but you were just a lot more measured. I was just more prepared. I was more physically prepared. I had a better plan going into it, from just what I need nutritionally, what my body needs. I had we'd kind of had like a mental game plan with the friend of mine that ran it with me, Benjamin. We couldn't talk about if we were in pain. We broke it down. If there's 28 stations, so it's between 4 to 6 miles per run. It's not a 100-mile race. It's a 4-mile race. Okay, cool. How many miles do we have? 5. Cool. Let's go do a 5-mile run. I think it was overall just more preparedness. And I think in between those two races too, there was just a lot more business that happened and discipline that happened. And I've been in therapy for a while. So the more I'm in therapy, the more I learn about who I am and how my mind works. And I haven't missed a day working out in 4+ years now. So I think it was a combination of things, but the biggest thing was just I had a better game plan, and I think I was a little bit more prepared.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you if you were still in therapy. I know you had mentioned again on a post that you had started going to therapy because of some family trauma that you experienced and how much of a impact it had had on you. You're still going to therapy on a regular basis?
Yeah, I had a session yesterday. I started initially going back in 2018, I think, maybe 2019. I think 2019 because it was my girlfriend at the time. She broke up with me, and I had just really bad anxiety for the first time in my life. I couldn't do anything. All I wanted to do was work to keep my mind off it, but
Mm.
I couldn't focus on work. I couldn't do anything. I was just paralyzed for a few weeks. And I knew it wasn't about the relationship. It was like this is something's off. And I've never felt anxiety in my life, but this is not cool. I have to do something. And I just Googled therapy in Phoenix, Arizona and found a therapist and started talking with her and started delving into that world and starting to understand kind of the underlying themes. And a lot of it does come back to childhood and trauma and whatever happened early on. And over the course of the past few years, I've been able to unwind. Oh, so that's why there's this attachment that was probably from my relationship with my mother back in the day. And I am, you know, in my relationship seeking a level of comfort that I can't provide for myself. And then when that disappears, there's this deep rooted fear of abandonment that's triggered. And so to get around that, one, I need to understand it, but two, I need to figure out how to self-soothe myself and to care for myself before I get somebody involved. Um, it's been huge. It's like I go to the gym to take care of my body every day. I work out every day, and that has been such an advantage as a human being, as a business owner, as as a runner. It's been I don't know where I'd be without therapy. It'd be the level of awareness I have now is crazy compared to what it was even 2 years ago.
Are you going on a weekly basis, or is it somewhat as needed?
I kind of just I have it kind of regular with
Yeah.
travel, but I at least go once a month, and I try to go twice a month, but it's not always consistent. I just try to keep it like I'm always beating the drum. It's always there and being scheduled at some point.
Is it the same person?
So I changed my therapist like 2 years ago. It's kind of like dating. You have to make sure you jive with them,
Right.
and you're probably like the odds of you getting it right off the bat are slim. Uh, it's that's if I started a second business, it'd be helping people find a therapist and
Mm.
making that more accessible because it's really hard and really frustrating and
It
confusing.
is, yeah.
But it's so worthwhile. And then there's just a lot of misconceptions about therapy. It's like, oh, so do you go in like cry every time and talk about what happened on the playground when you were 5? And it's like you sit down, so what's going on? Oh, so this happened this week. Oh, tell me more about that. And you just have a conversation with
Mm.
somebody that's paid to listen to you for an hour. That's not a spouse, that's not a friend, that really has no allegiances to you and can just
And
bounce
truthfully, I
ideas.
think a lot of people, a lot of us want our spouse to be that therapist. Where it's like, "Oh, so what's going
Yeah,
on this
save
week?"
some money.
Yeah.
It's like, "What's going on this week?" It's like, "Oh, this client didn't pay me and it's just frustrating." It's like, "Oh, that sucks." It's like, but in reality, it's like, "No, I want you to ask me how I feel about it and what I'm doing about it and why I think it sucks." And it just but and it's unreasonable where it's
Yeah.
like it's when my wife, tells me something or complains to me, she doesn't want my advice. She wants me to listen.
Yeah.
I'm like eager to give advice. She's just like, "Shut up.
Yeah.
Just please just listen to me for a minute." And she's like,
Well, I think every human being like wants to think they understand other human beings, but
mm,
it also is advantageous to have somebody who's a doctor in
mhm,
how human beings work to bounce ideas off of, because like everybody has good intentions, but a lot of times they don't actually understand what's going on.
Right.
So what happened? And I understand that you told us why you initially went, but was there like a mental uh instance that you recall where it's like, I'm going to pick up the phone and call a therapist? Had you tried other things to quell your anxiety? Did somebody plant that seed in your head? Like, what was the impetus for actually saying, hey, like, I have to make this happen? Because I think for a lot of people, that's the struggle. They hear about it and somebody tells you you can go, but actually picking up the phone or getting on the computer and making that happen is a lot bigger of a deal than just hearing or saying you're going to go to therapy.
The anxiety, it just got to a point where it was unbearable and I couldn't focus. I needed to do something. I was running a lot. I was exercising a lot. I was eating well. Like, I think there's some changes you can make from a lifestyle standpoint
Yeah.
that can help, but it still wasn't going away at that point. And I don't like the thought of medication. That's just not my thing. And especially of the past 2 years, 3 years, it's like, if I can never give the pharmaceutical companies my money, that's a victory.
Mm-hmm.
So the only other option was therapy for me at that point. And so I gave it a shot, and I talk about it because it's been super impactful for me. I think it's one of the best things I do as a human, as a business owner. It's given me a huge competitive advantage, I think.
Mm-hmm.
How
And
so? And I guess to relate it to business, like, how do you feel this has made you a better business owner than before you went to therapy? Obviously, not having less anxiety makes you a better business owner, but on a deeper level.
yeah, I think addressing your issues, one, just two, understanding how you operate and how your mind works is really, really helpful. And even like lately, I've honestly I've been in like a kind of a depressed state. I've had really low energy over the past month. And even just being able to identify that is something I would have never been able to do just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And even come to the conclusion on my own of like, wow, my mood really has been off. And why is that? Well, I think like at the end of last year, we had to cut a few people from the team for the sake of reducing expenses. Our expenses were out of control. And following that, I had a lot of shame. I still have a lot of shame about that, because I felt I failed as a business owner. I failed as a leader. I failed as another human being. I let these people down. They got hurt as a result of my ignorance and my just dumb business decisions last year. And then as a result of that, this year I've been gun shy as a leader. I've been kind of distracting myself with travel and other things. I've been a little aloof. I haven't called shots I need to call. I haven't been in charge in a certain way. And I've been hiding behind this shame and guilt. And even just coming to that realization, like, I don't think I would have come to that realization on my own. And now that I have the tools to do so, I've come to that realization. And now I can say, all right, that I made that mistake. I wrote an email to the team this past weekend saying, hey, I made a mistake. And this is why, and this is how I've been feeling. Just so you're aware, I have no expectations. I'm just trying to be vulnerable as a leader. But going forward, watch my actions. I'm going to do a better job for you all.
Yeah, I
That,
mean,
Did you get a
a tool.
response to that?
it's yeah, the response is, it's always so scary to be that vulnerable, but the response is always thank you. Like, I just talked to two of our people today and they both just said thank you, because
Mm-hmm.
I've felt that too recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me feel like a human being. It makes me feel like that's okay to talk about, and it's okay to be down. I'm like, yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's always very well received. No one's ever, I've sent a few notes like that, very vulnerable, and no one's ever been like, why would you do that? It's always almost like almost relieving for people to see and hear.
That's good.
Yeah, the interesting thing about therapy as well is, obviously you're going there to help develop the tools, like you said, to be able to handle these challenges in life. But if nothing more, it's going to give you time for self-reflection, where so much of therapy is you just sitting there talking. I think I've struggled with therapy a lot where it's like, give me some insight. Like, I don't want to just sit here and talk,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's forced self-reflection where you're running a business, you're growing a business. If you have a family, if you have kids, everything in life, there is rarely any time in today's day and age for self-reflection. Like maybe
Mhm.
10 years ago when you take a shit, but now it's like you're on your phone.
Yeah, dude.
Like there's zero time for self-reflection. So if nothing else, to be able to sit down and reflect on what you did this past week. Like we take my youngest daughter to therapy, and when we go in, and it's to deal with anxiety because we know she has anxiety, but she doesn't. So I want
Mhm.
to be able to help provide her with the tools so that she doesn't feel as though she can't be herself, or that she's hot and cold and so polarizing with her moods. And it's like when we go in, they want to reflect with us on what were her highs for this week, what were her lows this week. And I don't know as a parent if I would sit down and do that had I not signed up to do this with her, where it's like, would we sit down and gauge Tilly's highs and lows for the week and how she felt? And it's forcing us to do so, and there's accountability there that I think is important.
Totally. Yeah, I think like it's not the therapist's job to figure out all of your problems. It's your job. They're just there to guide you along, pull you
Yeah.
along, help you, but it's on you to figure out. And sometimes, yeah, just like how often in your life have you had an an hour undistracted? I put my phone outside of the room, nothing. Or you just talk to somebody and you're just able to talk about whatever you want, totally unrestricted. They bounce ideas back and forth, but you're completely focused on what the heck's going on in your life. It's so rare.
Yeah, you can't do it anymore.
No.
It's impossible, not with a cell phone on you. Like it
Mm-mm.
just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything today that you wanted to dig into that we have not dug into, or that you want to talk about, or that we should have asked you?
No, you guys do a great
No,
job. It's
nothing.
just, it's a little frustrating when I'm sure you guys have felt this too. It's when they ask you before the podcast, like, so what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. It's your podcast. Like
Yeah.
you ask the questions. Like I'll answer whatever you want me to answer, but I'm not here to make your show. Like
Yeah.
I'll be a great guest. I'll do whatever you want, but like just tell me when to be there and I'll show up.
Absolutely. I just want to make sure there wasn't
Yeah.
anything pressing that you had
No.
top of mind that's going on with you internally, business wise, that you wanted to speak to.
Well, I'll give you a cue. What about your summit that's coming up?
Yeah. So we've had a lot of crazy ideas as a business. This is another one, but we, there's this big construction trade show called the Con Expo. It's every 3 years. Like 150,000 people come into Vegas for it. It's a really big deal, and it's for like heavy equipment. So it's typically heavy construction companies, some mining, aggregate. But and then you have all the associations, and they have great meetings every year. There's all kinds of meetings and summits and conventions and this and
Mhm.
that in the construction industry. So that's nothing new. But there's no events that are dedicated to developing yourself as a human being, developing yourself as a leader, which
Yeah.
is the most pressing issue in the industry. And so if we can go create an event that goes and helps 1,000 people develop themselves very intensely as a leader, and then go, and then they go out into the dirt world, that's a lot of impact we can go create. So we asked ourselves, how can we go create the best leadership and development conference summit that this industry has seen? And somehow, like, I was against it when Dan brought it up, and then he went and just made it happen. But we have Jocko and Echelon Front will be there doing a full like mini muster, which they don't even do. They don't
Yeah.
do this for outside groups, but they're so bought in on helping this industry, helping the people of the dirt world, that they're going to do a whole
They,
full day.
just real quick, they are a fantastic organization. Like
Unbelievable.
and it's no surprise that they operate like so straight.
Yeah.
But having gone to that one per your recommendation, it's like I just want to go back.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
and it's like
Yeah.
I don't even care if I learn anything. It's just being around them and around
It's
their team and the people that go. That's where most of the value comes from. A lot of this stuff, anyway.
Well, and they're not experts on leadership because they've studied leadership. It's like, hey, this is what I learned in combat in Ramadi as
So
a
I think
SEAL
we can
operator.
apply it to business.
Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, I'll listen. And then we have the CEO of Dale Carnegie International and How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of my top books. Extreme Ownership by Jocko and Life, one of my top books. And then we have Bob Chapman, wrote Everybody Matters. He'll be speaking, one of my top books. Those are the 3 books I recommend to everybody. Dave Turn from Gold Rush. And then we have a long list of other professionals we found in the industry that all have amazing messages. So it's going to be a stacked lineup. It's also 1,000 other great people that are in the industry looking to learn. It applies to your audience too. It's not just if you move dirt. We're calling it the Dirt World Summit, but anybody can come and learn. So if you go to dirtworld.com, you can sign up, and it's October.
That's cool. Where
Did
is
you
it?
say where it is? Yeah.
Houston, Texas,
Houston.
October 25th through 27th. It's like between $2,500 and $2,700. So it's not inexpensive, but the value.
That's super reasonable.
Yeah, you'll get the value no matter what. I don't sweat about charging that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sweet. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, Aaron, it was good
Love
to
what
chat
you
again, man.
love what you guys are doing.
I love what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Tyler and I talk all the time about you and what you're doing, and I know Aaron, you and I chat one-on-one quite a bit. But it's like, I mean, I think just at this point, how do we? Not even how, but like we just have to continue to work together here. It's like you got the dirt world. We want to continue to focus on our industry, and I think after this conversation, at least for me, there's a lot of clarity in in understanding that it's not going to be we can't do everything.
Yep.
No.
Like we can't attack everything. We can't be the guys teaching the kids, the ones supporting innovation, the ones getting everyone involved. But what we can do is what we're doing now, and creating awareness and creating a sense of community. And when we are able to, offer resource, we offer resource, and remind ourselves individually and as the Modern Craftsman that these are the things that we are doing to better the industry.
That's it.
So where's the best place for people to find you?
Aaron Witt on Instagram, Aaron Witt on LinkedIn, Aaron Witt on YouTube, Aaron Witt on TikTok, Dirt Talk Podcast.
YouTube's sweet.
Yeah,
dude, his YouTube, like
It's
I'm telling
legit.
you, I watch it. I told that story a little. I wasn't fully honest about the story earlier. My kids were mesmerized by it, but I also was like just zoned in, and my wife walked in the living room laughing like, "You guys are ridiculous." I'm like, "Look at this." Like she's like, "It's the same thing over and over." I'm like, "No, it's not."
It's the difference between men and women.
Yeah.
Well, we've put men, women, children in construction machines, and a lot of times the women love it more because they didn't expect they'd love it, but they get in it, they're like, "That was so cool." I think it's surprising to them, but yeah, YouTube, we've got big plans. We're publishing the Alberta, Canada videos now. I'm going to Australia next week, Chile in June, doing a road trip across the United States, July, August, going to Europe, and then going to the Middle East. So a lot of cool stuff.
Do you think
And
you'll buy a jet?
you're gonna have to get Meg in some sort of heavy equipment.
My wife?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
You ought to.
As a YouTube video.
All right. We'll set it up.
I really think she'd enjoy it.
I there's no doubt. I think she just it was funny because she's in the other room, and like me and my children are dead quiet, which is never a good sign. And she walks in, and it's just we're literally watching the same excavator load dump truck after dump truck. And I'm like, I don't know. And then my kids wanted me to tell you they need more demolition videos.
Okay, noted.
They were like, more demolition. I was like, got it.
Noted. I'll send you some. I just saw a bridge demo the other day. I'll send you some clips to show them.
I'm pretty sure you had an Instagram clip recently with Wrecking Ball from Miley Cyrus on it. And I was I was scrolling through Instagram and that came on and Tilly's like, "Oh, let me see what you're watching." And I was like, "It's not what you think." And then she's like, "Oh, yeah, I know that song. I like that song." And then she was like watching that video. So you definitely hooked her with the Miley Cyrus.
Noted. All right. More Miley Cyrus. Yeah, I can do it.
More Miley, more demo.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, yeah, we appreciate your time, Aaron.
All right,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
Keep
likewise.
doing what you're doing. It's awesome.
We'll talk soon, man.
Sounds good.